Well, hi, welcome back everyone. This video is genuinely supposed to be a quick video. Every time I've tried to make a quick video anymore, they're never quick. Like 20-30 minute videos seem to be a thing of the past, no matter what I do. I don't know. This video is, I haven't done a video like this. It's a response video to some right-wing YouTuber by the name of Remnant777. Alright, so he's been kind of making his rounds through other people who kind of caught my attention. I don't really want to play much of his video. I don't want to fuck up my algorithm. I don't want to give his video any attention or views, but in good faith, I will leave the link to his video in the description. But just to let you know, like there's other leftists that have looked at his stuff and given a more leftist critique of his right-wing politics, which that's the thing. He's pretending to be a art review channel, but if he was actually like reviewing art in a critical way, he would come at it from a more politically neutral stance, because there have been, as I will talk about, left-wing art movements and right-wing art movements, and in all reality, art does not belong to solely the left or the right, and that art is expressed in the just as many formats as there are positions on the 5-quadrant political compass. So, I mean, that should be obvious. But apparently it's not. This guy does not know anything about art. I will have a small clip of his video, so show that no, but I want to start off by saying I do have some authority to speak on the matter. When I went to college, my major was actually in communication design, which is critical theory of art and media in general. You know, like here's college work, design basics. I got I did a lot of photography, tons of photography. My photography is what got me into the National Art Honor Society. One of my photographs that I did in the darkroom got sent off to the Chicago Art Institute and was on display there for a while. So I have a ton of books about photography, and particularly that of post-mortem daguerreotypes. It's something that captivates me. This is a pretty standard thing in communication design. Is as an elective, you're gonna learn beyond like art critical theory and go into logic, critical thinking, epistemology, philosophy, critical theory studies, design language. We have the principle of form and design, college curriculum textbook. We've got color theory. I did an entire class on color theory and have had several art projects from that as well. So I know a little bit about art. Anyway, so here's the small snippet from Remnant777 right now.
Or to be left-wing in general. Didn't you know, chuds? This guy... Why? The left loves to claim characters to be gay, to be trans, to be anti-ICE, or to be left-wing in general. Didn't you know, chuds? This character's actually gay, because I said so. Fellas, I need to address the elephant in the room. A while ago, I made a video talking about this exact same subject, so why the heck am I talking about it again? Well, it is because I was wrong, and the truth is far more fascinating than I initially thought it was. Nothing that's happening here is new whatsoever, and it's certainly not mutually exclusive to people on the left, but it's been happening for thousands of years. I realized all of this from a single Twitter post. The post read, "I already saw homophobic/transphobic venerator players, and all I gotta say is we are claiming him for us."
All right, good. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Now, here is a quick glance of the screenshot, and I would really recommend going to one of these two channels that I'm going to mention. I will have the links to their videos in the description, because I think it would be better to go to them and not just get the leftist critical analysis of the political talk that he does. I just think it would be better than giving some right-wing dipshit views and boosts in the algorithm and stuff. So this is Anthony. Here he has a really long video essay about Remnant777 as an overall critical review, at which Anthony actually does like reviews of art. And then you have this video here.
This video is called How the Radical Left Dehumanizes the Right by Remnant777. I realize now that in switching browsers, I have fucked up.
Which is by Thought Slime. It was a live stream that their live streams. Well, I think he says they say any pronouns, so they, them, he, him, she, her, non-binary, mid-transition, something. Mildred. They make they do a really good job. So I would recommend looking at Remnant777 through either Thought Slime's channel or Anthony's. But I just, you know, this Remnant777 guy, he makes some claims about art, and I think that it's really easy to take his challenge of, he poses his challenge about art and makes several claims that are really easy to debunk, honestly. They're easy to debunk with just some simple questions. So he claims that leftist art is mentally ill, that art's beauty, or beauty in general, is objective, that there is a difference between right-wing art and left-wing art, or that this even exists, that there's such a thing as left-wing and right-wing art. He claims that the right-wing art is objectively better than left-wing art. And so these are the questions that I think just easily demonstrate the issue with these claims. If the beauty or likability of art is objective, then why is it people have preferences on different art styles and designs? Take into account the different styles such as Art Deco, Bauhaus, Gothic Victorian, and Classical Gothic design, architecture, storytelling, and fashion. Why is it each individual has a different opinion on which type is more appealing than others? The fact that people have different tastes in the style of art for any given type of art, be it music, literature, poetry, paintings, drawings, and any kind of media that exists, this means the beauty, the aesthetic of it, is subjective, as not everyone comes to the same conclusion. Why is it that if we look at reviews on any given media of art, we find a variety of different reviews? Some people, critics, some of them will like it, some will hate it, and others are just kind of meh about it, and anything and everything in between. You could literally just go on Google, just pick a movie, pick a song, Doesn't matter what the art media is. It could be a painting even. It could be a drawing. And look at the reviews. And they will be all over the place because the perception of the beauty or the aesthetic of the piece of media is subjective. That is why you get a variety of different responses. And who knows what the political leanings of those people are. It would be more obvious if the reason they like or dislike the art is some stated political reason. But this gets convoluted quick when you try to put everything into a little box. It's really kind of a situation where any kind of combination of occurrence that can exist within reality exists. So you'll have right-wing people liking left-wing art. You'll have left-wing people liking right-wing art. There'll be right-wingers that make leftist art. There'll be leftists that make right-wing art. It's a mess. Anything that is possible exists within the realm of reality. Again, this would not occur if the likability, beauty, and the like of these medias were objective. This occurs solely and specifically because perception of art is always subjective. I would think that would be obvious, but especially for somebody who's supposed to be an art reviewer, somebody who's supposed to be like an art critic, somebody who has an entire channel dedicated to art, I think you would know this. This is like fundamentals. This is like 101. Second question is, how can leftist art be mentally ill when the interpretation of any media of art being left-wing or right-wing, just like aesthetics and beauty, tend to be unpredictable with varying degrees of interpretations? If we take a piece of art or media, really any will do. It doesn't matter what type it is. It can be poetry, it can be storytelling, it can be music, it can be paintings, it can be drawings, it can be movies, anything. Can you claim definitively? So if you go out there, just find a piece that you've never seen before. Because if you know about it, then you'll know in like history and stuff. So go and find a piece you've never seen before, and ask yourself, can you claim definitively if that piece is right or left wing simply by looking at it? And if you answer that question honestly, like with logically consistent honesty, the answer is no. You can look at a piece of art and you as a leftist may say, oh, this is right-wing art, but then if you did research in it, come to find out it has more left-wing message, and there could be right-wing people looking at the same art saying, well, I think it has a left-wing message, and they'd be correct. But maybe it was created by a right-wing artist. Who knows? There's all kinds of different variations and combinations that exist. How about the creator? Are they left-wing or right-wing? Can you tell just by looking at the art if the creator's left-wing or right-wing? It is very common that an artist, for example, is a leftist themselves, but produce one piece of art where the general consensus is that of a right-wing message. An example of this, a real-world example of this, would be Stephen King's Mr. Harrigan's Phone. Stephen King himself is a leftist and a progressive who has written many leftist progressive books. Stories like Dolores Claiborne have a lot of feminist subtext to it. Many however, Mr. Harrigan's Phone tends to be as a piece of right-wing messaging. For it's clear, it's clear talks from the character, Mr. Harrigan, that socialism is bad and capitalism is good, giving a lot of pro-capitalist subtext and criticism of the left's socialism, despite Stephen King, as the author, being critical of capitalism himself. By the way, this happened due to Stephen King being authentic about his characters, as it is very common that wealthy, elite older men tend to be very anti-socialism and very pro-unregulated capitalism. So he's just staying true to the character. He wants the character to be authentic. That's how this happened. There are examples of artists who are right-wing and make leftist-centered media as well. Just to let you know, leftists make art for right-wingers, and right-wingers make art for leftists all the time. This is literally what commercial art is. This is how you get classes like commercial art and communication design. Is that you're basically going into art for the purposes of commercial use. And it doesn't really matter. You can hold to your principles and values, but at the end of the day, you're doing a job. A lot of times you work for like a firm that works for like a company, and they'll get commissions to do things from various companies. So it's not really up to you whether you make left-wing or right-wing media. It's up to the company that's paying you. And there's also leftists I've known that have met right-wingers that are like, oh, hey, you're an artist, you're good. Can you paint this thing on my wall? And they flash money at them, and they're like, sure, whatever, I could use some money. I mean, this happens, so it's normal. We live in a capitalist society, and regardless if you're leftist, you can't escape that. You have to make money to pay the bills. It's not unheard of for right-wing conservative artists to make, let's say, rainbow or other pride-based media. Why, you may ask? Because they get paid to do it. Likewise, leftist artists have been sought out for their talent by right-wing people to make right-wing conservative art. Again, because they were commissioned and paid to make it for them. This is the very basis of communication design and commercial art, like I said. Most artistic styles are not intended to be left or right-wing, and many artistic medias are interpreted this way by the individual who is perceiving the art in either direction, projecting their own interpretation of an artist capturing something about our reality as a social issue that falls on the left or right. A group of people will look at the same piece where, for example, an artist just simply captures the aspect of violence within society in an artistic expression. The right-wing people looking at it walk away thinking it has some right-wing conservative traditionalist message, with such examples like, I'm just spitballing things here, and maybe there's a variety of things they could do, but just for example, it's saying might makes right, or it's saying society is saturated with violence because we have moved away from traditional values, or something to that effect. Whereas the leftists viewing the exact same piece and walk away thinking it carries a message with, a left-wing message, with such examples like, it's a commentary on how poverty is leading to more violence, or, it's a statement on how we treat people in the judicial system based on retribution and revenge, or something to that effect. Like kind of critical analysis of like the inherent economic violence that comes along with capitalism. So that happens. There are art styles that have been brought into existence by leftists or rightists. The Dada movement is an art movement or style that was based around socialism. The fun thing about Dada, the Dadaist artistic expression, is that is of absurdism, by the way. There is Futurism, which was created under Mussolini's fascism and can be seen as an artistic style born from the right. Overall, art has changed dramatically over the years. And just for, a thing, just because the Dada movement, the absurdist art that came out of the Dada movement, even though it was born out of socialists, doesn't mean there aren't right-wing artists that aren't fascinated by absurdist art and make absurdist art. That's completely possible. And just because Futurism is a form of art created by a right-wing, far-right dictatorship of fascism doesn't mean there aren't leftists that are interested in creating futurist artworks today. These become genres of art, of different styles that can be done. If we go back to paintings from the Bronze Age, we find that paintings lacked detail and seem to have been painted lacking depth, awareness, leaving tables painted in a two-dimensional way. Such paintings like the Bull Leaping fresco or the Spring Francisco. Here's some screenshots of those. Here, those paintings, you can see there's very little detail to them. These paintings are typically very, very lacking in depth. Like the legs are X's. There's not like a depth perception to them. And this is also very interesting. Like when you go far enough back in history to like Greek democracy, art is very vibrant. It's very detailed. It can be insanely realistic, but it's very expressive. And then society gets taken over by Christianity and theocracy, monarchy, and sort of like strict authoritarianism sort of rule over society. This is something actually that art, real art critics, like people who actually do that for a living and study art historically, critical analysis and stuff like that, notice is that art is a direct reflection of the society of which the artist lived in. The more oppressive a regime the artist lives in, the art tends to take on less detail. This is why during the Greek Democrat Empire, the art is really vibrant, and then as we move into the Bronze Age with like theocracy and monarchy and stuff, art becomes lacking in like it's very two-dimensional. It's lacking three-dimensional depth. It starts lacking a lot of like keen detail. Like it's very bland artwork. Really lacking in detail. We're talking like like here's a head, and just like you'll see like an eye and a nose, but there's not like they'll put two eyes on like a two-dimensional space or something. But then as the Renaissance comes in, and we're leaving this, we're starting to want more freedom, start asking about democracy, and such like that, as we get into the Renaissance. What is interesting is that art during more... Wait, I got a script. That's what's going on. I've gone off the script. So, Going into the Renaissance, the art starts to become more vibrant again, and you have artists like Leonardo da Vinci making paintings that, again, we're starting to see three-dimensional spaces, like the legs of a table aren't an X. There's a line here and then a line here and a leg in the background to give three-dimensional perspective. There's a ton of detail in it, of like wrinkles of clothes and stuff like that, not just a basic ass robe like you look like the Bronze Age paintings. You would look at it and be like, well, they're wearing a robe, but you don't see like any wrinkles or any details to it. You just know that from like some kind of symbol of it. But then moving into the Renaissance, like it starts becoming like vibrantly detailed. What is interesting is that art during more repressive times, more associated with right-wing ideology, tends to lack detail and depth, while during more liberated times in society cycles, art tends to gain more detail and become more vibrant. And by the way, this is not disputed in people who teach this. Like this is just, well, like even under the repressive regime of the Soviet Union, the type of art that came out of there, because it was repressive, the art reflected that. It was lacking in detail, and some might even call it bastard art. A lot of the facial features and stuff were very malformed and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of expression and such. Become more vibrant, such as after the Bronze Age paintings I have discussed. In the Renaissance era, paintings started to take on more detail and, more specifically, painted as having three-dimensional depth. Such paintings would be pretty much any of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. You can go look up Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. That's not hard to find. These different art styles would not have come to exist if people were not willing to break the supposed rules of artwork and how it is supposed to be done. This is like one of the things that Remnant goes off of, is that like there's a proper way to draw and an improper way to draw. And I think that's where he's getting this mentally ill, like, oh, your drawing doesn't look how I think drawings are supposed to look, so it's mentally ill. The thing is if there are no rules to art. If that were the case, we would not have such things as Futurism, Dadaism, Bauhaus, Art Deco, or when it comes to poetry, things like goth romantics, and especially the beatnik poets. None of that would exist as a form of art or classical, from a classical literary rules perspective. Both genres, when I'm talking about like gothic romantic writings and beatnik poetry, both of those genres broke all the rules. And I say beatnik especially as it is literally a form of poetry art known for being a form of free flow of thought or consciousness, which often has very little to no punctuation at all. There can't be a right or wrong way to do art. It's this lack of boundaries that allows for new artists to come up with new and innovative ways of artistic expression, and ultimately new looks from realism to absurdism. Looking at the form of art called music, breaking the norms or traditions is what took us from tribal music to classical to rock. Maybe we don't like certain types, but that doesn't make them mentally ill or wrong or left-wing even or right-wing even. All it means is that particular art that form of art, that form of music, that form of painting, that form of drawing, that whatever. All that means is you don't like it. Subjectively to you, it is not your cup of tea. It is your opinion. And it's as simple as that. Like how, if there were rules, concise rules in art, how did we go from Victorian style to Bauhaus? Somebody had to say, I don't want to do the Victorian. I want to break the boundaries. I want to push the envelope. I want to break the norms and do something different. Which brought us Bauhaus. And then moving from there into Art Deco and Art Nouveau and such. And then in poetry, like we wouldn't have beatnik poetry if people weren't afraid to break the norms and say, no punctuations or anything, this is just supposed to be free flow of thought. And thus these art forms exist. So maybe what Remnant777 is trying to say is that he thinks the realism of futurist art is correct, because realism tends to focus on trying to depict something as accurately as possible. Like basically you're trying to make a drawing or a painting look like a photograph instead of having any kind of variation that makes it artistically expressive and different from one another. But let's be real here. I'm going to show you a quick rundown of a screen capture of his channel here. So looking through this here, this isn't about art. This is about producing right-wing propaganda. Like I said, if this was about art, look at this. We have people say the violence, people saying the N-word, a lot of fuck you leftist stuff. Look at this. No white people didn't own slaves. That's just historically inaccurate. Yes, they did. No historian that's worth their anything is going to agree with that. Yes, white people owned slaves. They did. That's not disputed. I guess only today in 2026, in the year of our dark lord that's destroying this country, is the idea that white people owned slaves up for debate. But typically in academia, historically speaking, or even artistically speaking, no, this isn't, there's no contention on this. This isn't disputed. White people owned slaves. We did that. We enslaved black people. We did that in America. That's not contended at all. So not Remnant777. I don't know if he's going to see this or not. I don't really care, but, you're not an art review channel. You're just trying to tie art review in to your politics so you can make essentially the neo-anti-SJW shit. It's just right-wing propaganda. It's just a way your video about, first of all, too, he mentioned in the video, the clip that I showed, I think, says this. He got educated by Reddit posts and posts on X, on Twitter or something. That's not a place to get education or information. That's not, I wouldn't even call those tertiary sources. That's not research. that's peeing on your own feet and saying, like, I have no sources. Like, for me, like, all those textbooks, those are college-level textbooks. That's much a better source of saying that I have the credentials to speak on this matter than saying I saw a post on the internet, on a thread post. No, it's not about art review. You're just talking about LGBTQIA plus people wanting and having artistic representation out there, which is for them. It's for LGBTQIA plus people and their allies. It's not for you. You don't have to engage in it if you don't want to. You can fuck off. But by saying, oh, I'm critiquing it because it's not artistically accurate to academic interpretations of art and art critique, not because you actually think or believe that. It's so you can shit on LGBTQIA plus people. It's so that every artistic depiction, anything they create that has a pride flag in it, you're saying is mentally ill, not because it's incorrect art. But because you don't like LGBTQIA plus people. It has nothing to do with it. How do you know? What? So if a right-wing person had a pride flag and something they posted on the internet, some piece of art that they did to make fun of gay people, would that be mentally ill? No, because it would carry the political message that you like. It has nothing to do with art critique and everything to do with you just trying to shit on people you don't like. And that's not a political debate. It's not a political debate when you're saying, I don't like an entire group of people. That's just you being a bigot. That's not a political position. That's just being hateful. You know, there's no economic theory in that. It's just, yeah. LGBTQIA plus people are not a threat to democracy. You're not going to create a utopian society. This is ridiculous. And it reminds me, like, a lot of right-wing content is very, very low effort. Just pretty much go out onto the internet, find something by a group of people you don't like, and just go like, look how stupid this is. Ha 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 ha. Don't I have an awesome point? And that's about it. So it's really easy to make right-wing videos that are, 11 minutes long, because they're low effort. There's not a lot of critical thought that goes into them, a lot of critical thinking, logical thinking, consistency, and all that. It's just predicated on bias, prejudice, bigotry, and hatred. And that's about all there is. Yeah, so, anyway, that's what I have to say. I'm going to try to end it now. This might actually be short. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, and that. Out!